Hi everyone, it's Roger and James here from the What's On at Disney Plus podcast. In this week's episode, we're going to be talking all about the Shang-Chi trailer. We'll also be talking about some other trailers as well for upcoming shows. And we're going to be giving our thoughts on some of this week's Disney Plus and Star originals, including Loki, Wolfgang, and the Mysterious Benedict Society. So before we jump into any of that, quick bit of housekeeping. If you haven't already done so, make sure you do go check us out over on whatsondisneyplus.com. You can obviously favorite or bookmark the website so you can keep coming back to it. You can follow us on social media such as Facebook. We also have a Facebook group with over 170,000 members. And you can also follow us on Twitter. And I will say, if you can follow us over Twitter, that would be great, because we're literally like 20 people away from 20,000 subscribers over there. So I know not that part. I just want to just a little bit it doesn't go over the number a bit. So yeah, so follow us over there. And also you can find us on Patreon and YouTube channel memberships, which help support the website, the channel, the podcast, and everything that goes along with it, helping with hosting fees, podcast fees, all the rest of it, and all the other associated bills that come with running the website. So you can support us from as little as $2 a month. You get early access to some reviews. This week they've had early access to Iron Man 2, which will be available for everyone to watch tomorrow. And also we have a live Q&A, which will be going up live on Sunday evening. So YouTube channel members can join in on the live chat, and Patreon and YouTube channel members can submit questions in advance. So big thank you to all of our subscribers over there. So kicking off first off to Sarah for being a platinum supporter. That really does make a massive difference every month for that one. So thank you for your support. Also big hello to Andrew, Jacob, Caleb, Red Marsman, Andrew, Cody, Darren, the Juice, Lester, Lauren, and James on Patreon. Well, over on YouTube, a big hello and thank you to Bad Dog Gaming. We've also got Johnny T. We've got Jay Blue, Amit, Angels Army. We've also got Raphael. My VCR Still Works. Bina, Joshua, Adam, Dawn, Martin, Jeremy, and Sarah. Thank you for all of your supports. As I said, it really does make a massive difference in supporting our whole website and everything that goes along with it. All right, let's jump into it. So in terms of news, there's not been a huge amount this week. There wasn't any kind of major Disney Plus announcements, but we did get some new trailers and stuff. The big one was Shang-Chi and the 10 Golden Rings, which is going to be coming to cinemas on September the 3rd, and there's at least a 45-day exclusivity window. So it means, while I'm still not convinced it's going to be going to Disney Plus after 45 days. I would imagine maybe digital platforms first to purchase, but who knows? Disney could surprise us with it. But also, I still wouldn't be at all surprised if they end up pulling in Premier Access if Black Widow does very nicely. I'm still kind of, as we know with everything right now with movies, we should definitely put a big kind of asterisk next to everything, that there is swings can change. But what did you think of this trailer, James?
It is a good trailer. Showed off some good action. Showed off the rings for the first time. Wasn't actually expecting the way that they did the rings, which was different from what you think of when you think of rings. But
yeah,
should be interesting.
Because I always thought of it like the Mandarin's rings from like the animated series, where they had he had 10 rings on his fingers, well, one on each finger, and this is kind of like weird, almost like bracelets rather than rings.
Yeah, so in the comics, each of the rings has its own power, like it's ice, fire, controls over various things. That they probably
wind.
Pretty much. I mean,
there's a planet
by our powers combined, we are the 10 rings. Yeah, they were probably worried that it would be a little too close to the Infinity Rings, the Infinity Stones, and also, they are a bit overpowered when they're used properly. It's always been a bit of a trick having anybody beat them. So now having them just kind of be like super cestus weapon, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. If they're just sorry.
I was going to say, does Shang-Chi have any superpowers other than the rings?
No, and in fact, he does not have the rings, or at least in the Marvel universe, he does not get the rings, or if he does, he only holds them temporarily. And in fact, I think his connection to the Mandarin is pretty tenuous at best. It's pretty much along the lines of they're two Chinese characters, so they must be related, from like this, that kind of mindset.
So he has no superpowers at all.
His superpower is he's the best fighter on the planet. That is literally it. And typically they specify he is the best unarmed fighter in the planet. Although he is master of weapons, he normally fights without them. So he's Iron Fist without the Iron Fist ability, but he could take Iron Fist in a fight.
It just, I think from the trailer, it kind of was a little bit like he looked a bit superpowered because he was, well, I mean, yeah, it just, the way he just looked, it definitely felt like he was, flying off of buildings and they couldn't kill him, and he's fighting all kinds of, abominations and things. Yeah, definitely gave off that vibe.
Communing with dragons and Phantom, etc. Yeah, we'll wait and see. It might just be kind of like a tribute to the wuxia films, Crouching Tiger, things like that, or it might be they actually powered him up a bit. We'll find out.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm really excited about this movie. This is one that this trailer actually did. I mean, I was pretty excited, but this kind of leveled it up, I think, a bit more sort of, I don't know, just I'm really looking forward to having something fresh and new. And because while, like, obviously we've had WandaVision, great, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, great, Loki, even better, and then we got Black Widow coming up. Shang-Chi is like, oh, this is new. This is a brand new character. I know nothing about this character at all. I'm going, I've never seen, I don't think I've ever read him in a comic book. I've never seen him in an animated series. I don't think I've even seen him in a video game. That's how, like, he's not been in any kind of media that I've seen him in. He definitely was. I don't think he was even in my Marvel top trumps as a kid. It was the kind of thing of, this is a character I got like no information about at all. So I'm kind of looking, so I'm really looking forward to something fresh.
Yeah, I mean, they've tried to bring him into the comics a handful of times, like give his own series or team him up with somebody, but he has been pretty obscure up until a couple of years ago when they started to push him a bit more for obvious reasons now. If people had tried to talk about him, I don't know, 5 years or more ago, you might have thought he was just a joke character. Oh, his name's Shang-Chi and he's a kung fu, huh? That's, a relic of a bygone era kind of deal. But here he is. The trailer looks really good. I just want some good kung fu fighting. It looks like we're going to get that. The rest is cake.
Yeah. And also, I don't think any of us were expecting the Abomination. That was definitely a bit of a loop back into the Incredible Hulk, which I think will then play into the upcoming She-Hulk Disney Plus series. And just the fact that he's going into fight, I think, a lot of people weren't expecting that, and that kind of connection to the larger sort of MCU, which is what we've all been waiting for. But yeah, I think that was a big surprise for everyone, because Abomination was even trending on Twitter. That was kind of how much people were caught surprised by that.
I know they've been trying to bring Abomination back in, like he was supposed to be part of Civil War and things like that. So I'm glad they finally got in. This is not where I would have expected it, but glad to have him back.
Yeah, no, so I'm really looking forward to this one. It's definitely looking good. So I said it. When do you think this will be on Disney Plus? Do you think 90 days after cinema release, or do you think they're going to go for the 45?
So my rough guess here would be we'll get the cinema release, 45 days, we'll get it released digitally on marketplaces, which will include a Disney premiere access. Maybe not at $30, but maybe like a discounted because it's already been in theaters for 45, and then regular release after that, probably another 45 days to top out at 90, but I'm thinking closer to 45.
Yeah, no, definitely could see that being a thing of going a little bit. I could see Premier Access returning, as I said, like that, maybe like $10, $15 to get like early access to it. They might start experimenting with that one. I just can't quite see them going the 45 days. Though Paramount are doing it with their movies. I think the window is definitely short. I mean, you think originally we were talking 6 to 8 months for new movies. So now we're talking about 45 days to 90 days is kind of going to become the standard. But I don't know. I'm still convinced that Premier Access is going to be something that they're going to be using for a while. I don't think that's going to be going anywhere. But yeah, so let's know what you think of the Shang-Chi trailer. I have to hear your thoughts on all of this in the comments below. We also had another trailer this week, Only Murder is in the Building, which is going to be coming to Hulu and on to Disney Plus internationally as a Star original on Tuesday, August the 31st, with new episodes dropping weekly. Now, what's interesting with this, obviously, is Hulu's getting it weekly, and we're going to be getting it internationally on the same day. So now we've got a Tuesday release. Now, I can tell you, September's now becoming a little bit more busier for us in the UK, because on Mondays, we're getting new episodes of The Walking Dead season 11. Tuesdays, we're getting Only Murderers in the Building. Wednesdays is the new Fridays, and then Fridays is the old Fridays. So we're going to be getting 4 days a week with new content right through August, September, and a bit beyond. So I'm really glad that they've sorted this out with the release schedules with Hulu and Disney Plus, us getting it on the same day. I think this is great. This is, this is what we need. We need more of this. None of what they've done with like Love Victor season 2 and MODOK, where they got everything a week and then we didn't. So I do feel like that was a bit better. It is a tricky one, and I'm wondering if Hulu's going to shift over to more of that weekly release as well, because they're doing it with some other shows. So hopefully we can get it. Hopefully there'll be some news soon about American Horror Stories, because I've had so many people question me, ask me about, is that coming to Disney Plus as well? Because it isn't. It's going to be a Star original over here, the new spin-off series, and that's coming to Hulu, I think, the July the 15th. So everyone's like, well, are we get that? They're going to wait and hope that's going to be a big announcement of its own kind. But yeah, so it's just kind of pretty cool. Did you happen to watch that trailer?
I did watch that trailer. This came out of nowhere for me. I'd heard the name before, but I knew nothing about it. For whatever reason, I kind of had it as like a spin-off of How to Get Away with Murder or something like that.
Right, yeah.
So I was not expecting this at all, but I did enjoy it. It's great to see Martin Short, Steve Martin. Sorry, that's who I was looking for. And then Selena Gomez. It's like, this is a really weird pairing. But all three of them looked great in the trailer. It did not give away much in terms of like the plot, which is what you want for a murder mystery kind of show. This went from like, I'm familiar with the name to, I'm looking forward to this really fast.
The trailer for me, I mean, I've been looking forward to this one since we first heard about it, but the trailer actually got me even more interested. I've been a big fan of those two since, I mean, they were quite a big thing for us, I think, back in the 80s and 90s. They were big, especially Martin Short was in like a load of big movies. And I'm just interested to see where this goes. Whether or not they can pull it off, it's one thing with a trailer, but hopefully they've been able to work on this and get this right. I think Selena Gomez is going to change it up a little bit and maybe make it a little bit more drama-fed rather than just them messing about. It is a dark comedy. It's kind of funny because I mentioned it to my wife and she ears picked up at the name, and she was expecting, like How to Get Away with Murder, something like The Gloaming, something a little bit more edgy. And then I said Martin Short and Steve Martin, and she went, no. That was the end of it. But I'm really looking forward to this. As well as I'm just loving the fact that Disney have sorted out the distribution for this to make it a bit more just universal, and I think that is definitely a great thing moving forward. And like I said, just strange now. I was there putting together the UK list for September, and I'm going, okay, we're at like 4 days a week. 4 days a week. It's like, that's certainly, this was the problem with when you've got 12 to 15 shows dropping a week, you can't drop them all on a Friday. So I'm glad that we're starting to get a little bit more of a spread out.
And I do appreciate this part of like kind of the throwback to the old days of, on Tuesday you watch this show, on Wednesday you watch that show. Now, of course, you're not bound to it. This drops on Tuesday. You don't have to watch it on Tuesday. You can wait till Friday or wait for the whole thing to drop and binge it all. But yeah, it brings back that anticipation of going, what am I going to watch tonight? What am I going to watch tomorrow? And being able to go, there's something new.
Yeah, but the thing is, I find this whole thing, the trouble with dropping everything on a Friday is, and you tend to like watch most of it like Friday, maybe Saturday. And by the time you hit like Monday, Tuesday, you kind of like you're scratching around, you're scratching around, going like, what's out, what's new, what should we watch? And it's all the kind of things that you kind of put on the list of, I'll watch that at some point. Your ones that are in your bottom tier one. So I do like the idea of them spreading out a little bit. Then I know that like, Monday mornings I'm going to have Walking Dead, and then it'll be like this on Tuesday. It's like every day is going to have a different thing to watch, and I'm definitely looking forward to that. And just nice having a lot of choice.
That's basically what I meant. And having major releases come out on different days means that you don't have to pick and choose which ones you want. That happened a little bit this week because there were actually quite a few Friday drops, and we'll get to that in the review section. And of course, way back when this first launched, and they're like 18 shows and we're like, oh my goodness, which ones do I pick? And they drop off very quickly. Whereas if they had spaced those out back in the beginning, we could have been like, all right, I'll watch Jeff Goldblum on Monday, and et cetera, and they would not necessarily have fallen away quite so fast.
So it's I'm like I said, I'm really looking forward to this show, and like I said, it's definitely one of the, and I mean, they put out, I think recently there's been a few mentions of a few FX shows, like Hulu and Disney Plus internationally are going to be getting at least 35 FX shows dropping. So that's a lot of shows to be dropping, not necessarily all at once, but that's just within a year. So that's quite a lineup just in itself, just for original content, let alone about Hulu originals and Star originals, and all kinds of stuff dropping.
And the FX originals do have a tendency to be pretty good. I mean, I know there's some duds in there, but it did seem like for several years there, they had quite an amazing lineup. And I'm not even talking about like Walking Dead. I mean, Fargo was a great series. Gifted was a good series. They had other ones tossed in there. So
I think we watched things like Black Narcissist. I think it was also like Pose. Was it Pose was one? And I like, my wife loves American Horror Stories. I also enjoyed, I think, American Crime Story, the one with the Kardashians, like dad. I'd enjoyed that one. So there's been like a few things over time and stuff. Well, we also got a new trailer for Turner and Hooch, which is coming on the 21st of July. That's coming on a Wednesday. Still trying to get used to all of this changeover. Saw the new trailer. For me, instantly, just like, as a dog person and someone that completely loved the whole thing of Turner and Hooch, the original movie, this trailer for me was like, yeah, this is exactly what I want. It's more of it. I mean, they did kill off Tom Hanks in the trailer, which I thought was a little bit mean, but well, I think they kind of got that out of there. They've got that out of the way. He is not turning up. He's not going to be in it. There's no cameo from Tom Hanks, but he's playing. It's kind of like a reboot, but at the same time, the guy is Tom Hanks' son. It looks like his mum's appearing in it, so there's a few characters from the movie appearing in this one, and yeah, it's just more of the same. Hooch is going to be causing loads of mayhem, but ultimately, we all know that he's going to have a soft spot for him. I love the dog. I love those type of dogs, and I as someone that has a British bulldog, I kind of put them British boxers. They've all kind of got the same Frenchies. They're all the kind of dogs I love. So that's definitely for me. I'm sold.
Yeah, no problems with the dogs at all. I wasn't entirely sold on the main human character. We'll see how it goes in the actual show once he gets a chance to actually, do more than show off the slapstick that's going to be going on there. It is too bad we won't see Tom Hanks. I don't think anyone was really expecting that, though. He's way too expensive for a show like this. But I did like that they kind of tied it in where there's just like, this is the reason why Hooch is going over to his son.
Well, it's not even Hooch. It's
generational.
Hooch the third or something like that. But
it's probably like the 8th, honestly.
Yeah, it's just a lot of fun. So this will be a 12-episode series, and it'll be running every Wednesday from July the 21st. So we'll be running. I think the finale of that one's in October. So we've got a good 3 months of this show. So I'm looking forward to this one. And also, again, as while I'm a little bit like, I don't want all these reboots and sequels, I'm just glad it's not in high school. just glad it's not about kids. There's a chase scene, and So I'm looking forward to this one. A nice little bit of a palate cleanse every week with all the different stuff coming out.
We will be talking about a lot of kids today, for sure.
So let's jump now into we're going to start talking about some of the Disney Plus originals and Star originals this week. So I'm going to start off one, and this one's a little bit more of an issue. So I watched the latest episode. I've been watching the High School Musical, the series, and watched the episode yesterday. And I literally messaged my other mods in the group, and we're like, "Is anybody else really struggling with the show?" And I've been like, the thing is, this show is. You stop watching it. The thing is, all the dancing and all the singing is fantastic. So I'm not getting away with the fact of when they put on a performance, it's really good, right? And that you can tell they're all talented. But there's been no story. There's just nothing pulling you forward. The characters don't seem to have developed at all. And I'm feeling like episode 7, the characters haven't changed one bit from episode 7 from episode 1. The story hasn't gone anywhere, and you sort of getting to the end of the episodes going, okay, so if you take out the performances, nothing happened. And it's all like so, I don't say so, but it's just, I'm really struggling with it. It's already at the kind of the bottom tier of my originals right now, but I really enjoyed the first series. I really enjoyed it. But the second series is so dull because it just feels like okay, we're going to give all of these all the crew, all the cast, they're all going to have their big moments. They're all going to have these big, and we're just going to try and get to these moments. And I don't know what it is. It's just they're not, we know that they're good. But the trouble is they now know that they're too good. And that's kind of becoming a bit of a thing. They're toying around with the whole thing of, the love triangle and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, but it's like everything. Sometimes with these shows, they're great at having the tension to get people together, but they don't know what to do once they get them together. And then the instant thing is, oh, we're going to try and split them up. It's like, well, you spent the first half of the first season trying to keep them back together again, and now it's like, I don't know, I'm just really struggling. And I did a few other people in mods and stuff have agreed. So let me know if either right or wrong. I know there are a lot of people loving it, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of the hype about this series. There's been nothing in our Facebook group. We know when something's popular, when you're just seeing post after post after post. Like in the last week we had loads of Luca content, loads of Loki stuff. People asking about the Mysterious Benedict Society, but I don't think I've seen a High School Musical post in weeks, which is never a good sign. I would have thought with the success of Olivia Rodrigo, that would have given it a bit of a boost, but her character is just really annoying me in this series. It's just so dull. I don't know. I'm just really struggling with this one. It's like we've got a few more episodes left of the season, but when are we actually kind of, I don't know, there's no conflict. I know they tried to make this whole conflict up with this other high school, but it just feels so fake and just, I don't care. I mean, it's just really, I'm just like, it's such a weird thing of going, I really enjoyed that first season, but this second season is just really lacking in any terms of conflict or story or any reason for it to exist, really.
Well, even by the end of episode 3, which is as far as I got, I got the impression that the big idea for the series was, or the season was, we're going to make everyone think that we're going to do High School Musical 2 because we did High School Musical 1 in the first season. And no, it's a fake out. We're doing Beauty and the Beast. And that was like the entire idea behind the series, but they revealed it in the trailer. So it wasn't even a surprise to begin with. And 2, this like, okay, so you're not doing what we expect. Cool. So what are you going to do? And they didn't really have an answer for that. And instead, like you said, they're dropping back on the old standards for the genre. We can get 2 people together, but they can't be happy together. We can get 2 people together, but there's a third person who's not happy and intentionally or otherwise tries to break it apart. There will be an internal conflict because this person doesn't feel like they're measuring up to the rest of the group, or and it's just like, I mean, most people could write this in their sleep.
It's just really feeling quite and I will be honest, I think now especially with all the Star originals dropping in as well internationally, it is at the bottom of my pile, and that's not, you'd have imagined that this show, it's like, at the same time, we had the Big Shot overshadowing it, we had the Mighty Ducks as well, and then we've obviously had Loki and all the rest. But for me, it's just like this show really is just like, I mean, I know that there's been some amazing performances on it. I think like last week, Seb did one of The Climb. Great, the performance, but it's like we need more than just these. But in some ways as well, the performances are too polished. They did this big like mob breakout scene of doing the mob song and they're all doing this dance off, and it was like, it's like, this feels like I know it's supposed to be they seem to have dropped the mockumentary side of things, where they used to look at the camera and wink and kind of acknowledge the fact that it was real. Like, this is just like, I don't know, they just seem to have lost it all. I think they just, again, it just feels like they all want all the casts just to have these amazing performances, but they don't want to do anything. I don't know, just the stories are all just very, very dull. Of just, I'm thinking now on episode 7, you could have gone from the last episode of season 1 to this episode, and in reality nothing has changed, and it's and that's not good.
So I mean, the conceit of the series all the way back to the original movie has always been overproduced dance numbers with these teenagers and singing, and those pieces are always noticeably higher quality than the rest of the movie. But you do still need those pieces in between to to glue it all together, to give you a reason to care. Otherwise, just do it as the Mickey Mouse Club, and they do a couple of songs each time, and then they end with like MICKEY, and that's it. You do need that story in the middle, and it does sound like maybe COVID got in the way. We can be charitable and kind of give them a bit of a break on that. But at the end of the day, if it's not engaging, then it's not engaging.
No, and I know they extended a couple of episodes for the season. So again, we're in that kind of filler zone, mid-filler season, where it's like, they've got no conflict moving. And the conflict with this final school, I'm like, it's a competition with other schools. So there's going to be more than one school. So maybe focus less on trying to...
Wouldn't that be a great twist, though? Like they're so focused on this one school. Like, this is the school to beat. And then they get there and like, oh, they placed like 12th out of 14th. They're not even in the rankings. These guys over here who you don't even know are actually the best.
They're probably gonna, we know they're gonna probably win but I mean, I'm sitting there going, these kids really need to practice more, because it's like they're all just, we're gonna do our own song, we're gonna do our own thing. It's like you're all want the line. I don't know. I'm just really struggling with the show, so I want to do a bit of a rant on that one, because it's a bit like sometimes like I've kind of got to the end of that show. I've got to write a review of this. I'm really like. Oh, okay, so there we go. So that was my negative one of the week.
You can't actually see it, but I actually have popcorn off screen, because I did know going into this that there was a rant incoming. So yeah, I came prepared.
Moving from that one there, we also had a new FX series drop internationally called Pride, which is a 6-part documentary series about civil rights movement, a bit of a shift in tone. This one goes right back to like the 50s up till the noughties, and just each episode focuses on a different decade, looking at the key people involved in kind of gay rights, and kind of going through. And I'm going to be honest, I watched this one, and this was one of those documentaries of going, there was so much in here I didn't know most of this stuff was going on. It was quite an eye-opener of kind of what the issues were, how the people were treated, especially back in sort of in the 50s and the 60s, and because you hear about all this stuff moving forward, and obviously us being born in the 80s, the later episodes are a bit more relatable, but those early episodes for me were quite. There's some hard-hitting story. I mean, it's a very hard-hitting documentary. This is not sugary coated. They really get in on it, and I'd really recommend watching it. It's definitely hard. I wouldn't recommend trying to watch all of them back to back. I did about 4 back to back, and then was like, no, I need to take a break for it a bit, because I did have that early access to them. But it was definitely a very interesting one. I feel like with Pride, obviously this month, and we're having all the big sugary things. I mean, they're doing a big event on Facebook and YouTube this weekend, and that's all great. But I actually found like this was actually the thing of, this was for me was more of the thing of finding out some proper information, having it presented in a very serious way, but also just giving us the facts and what's led through it. I just thought it was a really very well made documentary, and for me, it was about gaining more knowledge and something I didn't know about, and sometimes that's always, I think, a good thing. This was for me a really powerful documentary.
Well, I mean, that's the purpose of documentaries, right? Yeah. As much as we love our shark and whale documentaries, it's good to watch documentaries about stuff we don't know about going into it. And even though a lot of the focus on this is obviously in America, all of it, I did not know much of this. I do not know much of the history of Pride prior to about 2000 or so. And even going back the 50 years, because this started in the 50s, or the series started in the 50s, I should say. It's a massively different culture than it is now. Having grown up in like the 80s and 90s and stuff, it was always still a taboo subject. It was still, those people, right? Yeah. But you compare it to the 50s, you're like, oh my God, how did these people ever have the courage to do that in the first place?
Yeah, it's a very powerful documentary. Definitely worth watching. I think also, like I said, break it down into smaller chunks rather than trying to do it all, because there's 6 episodes, so they're nearly about an hour each. But definitely a very powerful documentary. We also got another new documentary this week, Wolfgang, which is all about Wolfgang Puck. I did mention it briefly last week. And I will say, check out, I did put up a video on Tuesday where I actually spoke with Wolfgang Puck and the director of the documentary. He was so great to talk to. He was so full of personality. It's such a weird thing of, like for me, like he wasn't a big thing here in the UK. You know, he wasn't a well-known chef. But having watched the documentary and then just speaking to him, I was just like, oh, I could see why, you know, he's so popular. I'm so going there next time I'm in America to go and get something to eat, because it's that kind of thing. I'm like, I'm intrigued now. I want to see what it tastes like. But yeah, so this documentary, did you have a chance to watch this one?
I did. I watched this one. I enjoyed it for the most part. And I'll say something a little contradictory here. I thought it was both too long and too fast at the same time. By the end of it, about the time they talk about his divorce, from that, I just kind of like started tuning it out. Not because of the divorce. That's just the time measure that I'm using here. But at the same time, like the first half of the movie or the show, they like were zipping through it. And then he opened this restaurant and it was super successful. And then he opened this and it was super successful. And then he tried this Chinese restaurant and it was super successful. I was like, can we stop and take a look at this a little bit? Because it was the first 15 to 20 minutes that were fascinating, where they were talking about his early life and hit the first steps, and they gave it time to breathe and actually give us the context.
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, as someone, you know, that's had a catering business and all the rest of it, I found that aspect of it very interesting, about the success of it and how, you know, he built it and the issues that he had. And I was saying this to me and my wife went shopping, so we were out in the car for a bit, and I was saying about this documentary and about how, you know, this whole thing of the restaurateur, the guy of the restaurant, you know, that was the thing that they used to want to be. It wasn't about the cook or the chef. It was about who owned the restaurant, was the one that kind of stood at the front, had his name above it, and goes, you know, this is my place, my restaurant. And the cooks kind of did what they want. And of course, it all shifted. It's all shifted now. So now you don't see that. It's now all about who's the chef is. They're the one. And again, it's just like this whole shift of how what came about, you know, of improving food and all the rest of it. I just found it fascinating. I can see what you meant with the timing wise, because I think it's about 75, 80 minutes. So on one hand, like you said, it felt fast. And there were some areas I think I would like more information on. Like I said, on that whole bit of why did that succeed? What happened here? You know, where did they go right? But I was also a little bit more intrigued of like, okay, what went wrong? What was some of the problems? Because they mentioned he basically overcommitted himself to doing too much, and that kind of caused problems with his marriage and stuff. But it was at the same time, well, was there any issues with the business? So I definitely kind of feel like I wanted to know more. But as for someone that didn't know anything about him, I kind of left that and go, okay, I feel like I got a really good education into who he was. Might be, like I said, if you're already familiar with him, it might not feel strong, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great documentary, because as far as like me and my wife were concerned, we'd seen Wolfgang Puck at Disney World in the downtown Disney sort of Disney Springs area, and that was all that's the only place we'd ever seen it. So it was always like kind of, well, who's that? You know, and that was like this kind of answer. But no, I nice to have this kind of different documentary. The director did tell me that the reason they went on to Disney Plus was to reach a younger audience and a bigger audience, and that was all. And I think from Wolfgang's, but that's a very good point of stretching out to you know, had this been on the Food Network or something like that, I think by being on Disney Plus, I do think it hits a different audience. And like I said, very interesting, and I'm just glad we're getting something different, and that's what's nice.
I definitely learned a lot from this. I knew very little about him outside of his name and his influence in the industry. I knew he was one of the trailblazers. I knew he had that the chef having their name was like a huge deal. That just did not happen. But outside of that, I did not know any of his rise, any of the family stuff. But that was another part of the documentary that I kind of got a little annoyed at. They hinted at it a little bit, like that he had a bad relationship with his son when he was when the son was young, because obviously he was off doing TV interviews and he was traveling all around the country opening up restaurants, and his son very specifically said, like, I never saw him, and we would have dinner at his restaurant so I could have a dinner with him.
Yeah.
And then they just skip over everything else. It's like, oh yeah, and now I'm following in his footsteps, and I'm like, wait, no, we're missing something here.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely kind of I don't say the same thing, but you know, I mean, I've worked with my dad in the kitchen for like 24. We've been working together in our businesses for like 25 years, so I definitely got that whole gist of it. And I like I said, I think I understood that a lot much more, but obviously, yeah, it didn't really go into too much detail and stuff. But I think just as a whole, it was just, I don't know where it's going to fit in the Disney Plus ecosystem, who's going to watch it. But it does feel like this is part of the kind of the overall feel of the more mature content is slowly starting to trickle in. This might not be a big hit day one, but this is going to be a hit probably for years, for when someone new comes in and going, oh, well, here's a documentary. I don't, you're going to, and they need more mature stuff on there in order to get, for when they put more on there. Because, we said like when the right stuff dropped, there wasn't really anything else like, but if you're starting to put little things like this, more and more of this on there, it's going to feel less like a kids show area. And I think that's what we need.
And I will also note that it's interesting that despite the fact that this is on Disney Plus, they made no references to his opening restaurants in Disney. Like if you had not mentioned that it was over in Disney Springs, I think there's one at Anaheim as well. I've been to it in Vegas, which obviously has no connection to Disney other than the random people in costumes not affiliated with Walt Disney at all. We wouldn't have known. This documentary would not have been you would not have come out and go, oh, I could go to Wolfgang Puck's next time I visit Disney. It's not mentioned at all.
No, but you can definitely see now that they're going out trying to buy different kind of and come up with different pictures and stuff of trying to bring different kind of content. And I'm really good for. I know it's not going to be a big popular one, but it's definitely a highlight. Moving on from there, we had another new series drop this week. A little bit of a surprise one that they did, because we got the first 2 episodes of the Mysterious Benedict Society. So on early in the week, they kind of pulled a thing and were like, episode 1 and 2 is coming this week. And I went, oh, because I'd already seen episode 1 and 2. So I was in that thing of, and it felt a little bit for me when I watched them of like WandaVision, where you kind of needed to get to maybe episode 3 to realize what was going on. And I felt like with the Mysterious Benedict Society, I think we did need those 2 episodes to kind of get to where the show is going. I really enjoyed this series. The first 2 episodes I've seen. We'll have new episodes dropping every Friday from now on. It's an 8 episodes, so we got about another 6 weeks of it, 6-7 weeks, and I really enjoyed it. It wasn't what I was expecting. It was a bit kooky, a little bit weird. I'm kind of set in the 70s, so that kind of changed up the aesthetic of it and how they all act and stuff. I had no clue when I went into this what to expect. And especially the first episode, I was really intrigued, and I'm looking forward to this one each week. Something different, something fresh, new story. It's not a reboot, it's not a remake or anything like that. And I'm just like, wow, this is and they, Disney seem to be very happy with it and kind of trying to promote it and all the rest of it. And I do think they made the right decision in getting those 2 episodes out to kind of hook people. But what did you think of it?
I really enjoyed this a lot, and it's not just that it's something different; it's that it's well made something different. Like, if something came out and it's it's different, but you literally just slap popsicle sticks together, it's I'm not interested. This is actually really good. I'm also glad they dropped the 2 episodes because episode 1 didn't really end on a good hook. It's a decent hook, but episode 2 has a much better hook to the end of it to make you want to come back for episode 3, because episode 1 was almost entirely set up. It's testing. Ooh, here's some weird kids, more testing, welcome to the club. And it kind of ends there, and just that, okay, I have no idea what I just watched. But then you get into episode 2 and the plot actually starts to move.
Did you feel like with episode 1 that you were watching a movie? Because I did. I kind of forgot I was watching a TV show.
And especially since they're both 50 minutes long, by the time you get to the end of episode 2, you're like, wow, I just watched an entire movie worth of content. And we're really just at the beginning of it.
Yeah.
But the quality was definitely movie. It's not a huge budget thing, so the special effects aren't super amazing. But what they are working with does work really well.
Yeah, I'm just very, very impressed with this one. This one definitely came out, and I'm really hoping a lot of people check it out. We'll be talking about it a lot, I know, over the next few months. Again, earlier this week, I did put up some videos where I did speak with the cast of speaking to Tony Hale and stuff was great. And I would be honest, spoke with the 2 kids, Mystic, and also the guy that played was it Sparky Washington? I think it was Sticky. Those guys were so fun. I'll be honest, that was one of the best interviews I've had, was with those 2 guys. They were so fun. It's just a really, really interesting series. I'm just so glad people can watch it and get going on it. I really recommend it. If you're only going to watch one thing on Disney Plus other than Loki, this is if you've got one thing dropping on Friday, that's the one to go for. Go for it. It's a really great series. You can't go wrong with that one.
There's a lot of personality to it.
Yeah,
all the characters, they're quirky but not annoying quirky. Even the girl who is like literally annoying is not actually annoying. She's kind of fun in her own quirky way,
but evil as well. I like that about her.
She's very snarky, and I'm glad she's on the team because she's going to provide a different perspective than these other three who are definitely on the goody two shoes. But she wouldn't be on the team if she wasn't, if she didn't have that empathy. They were very clear about that. I would also say this has a very Wes Anderson vibe to it. It doesn't go the full Wes Anderson. You're not going to be finding all sorts of like symmetrical shots and stuff like that. But the way the kids are acting, the general tone, the general feel, the kind of atmosphere they're building definitely feels like Wes Anderson.
Definitely a really enjoyable one. So moving on from there, let's now talk about Star Wars: The Bad Batch. I kind of love the fact now that we have so much to talk about, and there's such a variety. It does really make a difference.
Actually, it was pretty overwhelming this week. Sure, Loki was off on its own, and then Love Victor and MODOK are, I can watch them whenever because they're already out here. But even with that, I'm like, Wolfgang, 2 episodes of this, Bad Batch, and it's like, I need to take Friday off. I didn't, but it really felt like I should have.
It is great to kind of, like you said, but this is, in some ways, it was like, where they like announced all the move to Wednesday. We go, well, what we're gonna have to do that, and then we're gonna have to leave it on Wednesday because there's that much stuff to get to be able to watch. We might need a few days to kind of catch up on everything. But so Bad Batch. What did you think of this week's episode?
This was a good episode. It was pretty much a straight continuation of last week's episode, which helped it quite a bit because it meant the story got to move forward. I always love Cad Bane. He's always fun to follow. Fennec showing up, definitely entertaining. Again, though, doesn't feel like the Bad Batch are actually in their own show.
I was a bit like, these guys only had like 30 seconds of like footage. They were barely in it. And they literally just turned up at the end to kind of pick up. I mean, you would have thought the way that they rescued Omega, that they were literally flying around the building. It's like, I need help. I'm falling out of my thing. They turn up, but like, I mean, you wouldn't even be able to get. It's like, how fast is hyperspeed? It's just like,
to be fair, that has been a question that has been unanswered at the very least since The Force Awakens. Disney definitely was just like, it's as fast as we need it to be for the plot.
We've been like, I know space is big and all, but I would hope that it would, that was a fast turnaround, even if they're on the same planet. I mean, that was my one little finger going, well, there was definitely an Omega kind of, definitely about making her the main one of this one. I still find her a little bit annoying. There's a whole obviously twist of the fact that she is essentially a clone of Django, and I'm not sure. So is she Boba's sister, or is she Boba's alternate variant? I don't quite know, but I'm definitely setting up, I think, something for the Book of Boba Fett. I can guarantee that this is something that's coming up later.
I'd assume so. If Boba is considered to be Django's son, even though he's a direct clone, I'd have to assume that she'd be considered the sister, that they would be siblings in this case. Scientists might have a different view. This might not be something that's actually been figured out yet. But either way, the fact that they name dropped Boba, both calling him Alpha and actually using his name, I suspect we don't even have to wait for the Book of Boba Fett to come out. He's going to show up in this series at some point. They do seem to be setting that up, and it would not surprise me if things that they set up here, at the very least, get referenced in Book of Boba when that comes out.
But I thought that was cool. Also, Fennec showing again her kind of good side. She is a bounty hunter, because we kind of saw that in The Mandalorian, didn't we? Where she's not necessarily a bad like bounty hunter. So obviously, I thought that was a nice twist with because in some way you kind of assumed that she was on the same contract that Cad Bane was. You kind of And I think that was the way they set it up. Well, you assume that they were, of course, no, she's on a different contract, with another Camino. Yeah, and again, it's really nice, solid, just having them two fight and the Bad Batch not be involved. And I just enjoyed it. It was definitely just a fun episode. Like I said, things moved along. We're at that mid-season point. This felt like we answered all the questions that we've been leading up to for the last few weeks. Now we're going to set this off on a new way to go moving forward.
Yeah, and the only other thing to say is Cad Bane really needs to replace his droid, because if he's been working with that droid for so many years and Omega was able to trick it so easily, I would not trust. Yeah, I wouldn't trust that droid ever. I'd replace it immediately.
Yeah, I mean, Cad Bane's is so cool, isn't it? I mean, it's just it's the only thing that really gets me, and this is my one. Why does Omega look like she's just a generic female or just a generic character brought in that could be in a DreamWorks movie or anything like that? But Cad Bane, I mean, you can literally like see the like how his skin is, and it's like there's such a, I don't know, just Omega just looks so generic, and I really just dislike the whole style of her.
Well, but she's got curly hair. There aren't many Star Wars characters with curly hair. That's the best I got. To be fair, Cad Bane is also a returning character. His design was set during Clone Wars. But yeah, his design is great. I just love that one.
Okay, so that was a great episode. I'm trying to think. So we had a new episode of MODOK as well. We haven't mentioned that one for a while. Watched this latest episode. I really feel like with this show that it's good in small doses, but I'm like in and out on it. I don't quite. It's like it was fun for a little, like, oh, this is different, and then it's like, what? It's whining, and I don't know. What did you think of MODOK so far?
So I'm not up to the current episode. I've only gone through episode 3 at this point, so I'm 3 behind. Right, 6 came out this week.
Yeah, 6 came out.
And I'm in kind of the same space. Like, even though it's a shorter series, it's only 25 to 30 minutes long, I cannot watch it back to back. Now, I know longtime listeners will be like, you don't binge stuff anyway, so yeah, that is true. But I don't really feel much compulsion to read it, to watch it. Like, middle of the week, Tuesday, like what am I gonna watch right now? It's not, oh, I should get caught up on MODOK. It's no, I've got these other things completely unrelated to Disney Plus that I should get caught up in, and they end up being watched instead. It's a weird series. It's a bonkers series. It's well enough put together. Like, the production values are pretty solid, but it's not that funny, which is kind of what I was expecting it to be. Sure, I here and there every once in a while, but they seem to be much more interested in telling a somewhat serious story within, like, this is not what I was signing up for with this one.
Is it a bit of an odd one, because MODOK's such a strange character, and they're having a bit of fun within the Marvel thing, but I am just finding the whole series, and I don't know, again, this series was like, they dropped the whole lot in the US back in May, and then that was it, bang. I mean, I was like even trying to find the new episode yesterday. It was buried even on Disney Plus. Of like, well, if you got a new episode drop, it should have been. Again, it kind of feels like, had this been weekly in the US, this might have helped kind of keep the momentum going a little bit. But it kind of just got dropped and run, and that was the end of it. I don't know. It's a bit of an odd one. Again, I think the trouble with the MCU now is it's so big and so serious and so great that this show just kind of feels like it's an. I know it's completely separate. So therefore, it's nowhere near, and it's an animated TV series. But I don't think, like, when I watch this compared to like Solar Opposites, which has been renewed for season 4, that feels like I'm watching something that's fun. And MODOK is like, if you take away the little edging comments about like other things in Marvel and the little connections and stuff, it's like not really much there. I don't know. It's a bit of an odd one.
It's like they wanted to do Deadpool, but they didn't commit to it completely. Yeah. And you can tell that they kind of pulled back from what they wanted to do. Now, they might have wanted to go far more humor and Disney balked at it or something like that. We don't know the backroom, but it feels like it should be much better than it is.
Yeah. Are you up to date on Love Victor? Did you watch the second episode?
Yes, I did. I did watch the second episode of Love Victor. So I'm up on that. And that is a show where, when I'm kind of browsing through shows in the middle of the week, I'm like, oh yeah, let me check that one out.
So you enjoying that one?
I'm enjoying that one. A little bit of fake drama going on. in episode 2. I'm assuming you saw it, of course.
Yeah. The thing,
Yeah.
I'm at the point where I got sent the first 4 episodes, so
Right.
I'm a little bit on the lines of I can't remember exactly what happened in this
So,
episode. And I try not to spoil it. Like,
so the main thing, of course, is that his girlfriend from season 1 returns to the show, and she hangs out with college kids for part of it.
Right. Yeah.
And that was definitely my I don't like this plot. I don't know where they're going with it, though I can probably guess. But anytime you do the high schooler pretending to be a college kid and potentially setting up a dating scenario, I'm just like, really, are we doing this? Can we not do this storyline? It's been played out. On the other hand, pretty much every other storyline going on in there is entertaining. His mom coming to terms with it, or kind of
really
coming
not
to terms with it. Really not. She's playing that she's cool with it, but it's very clear that she's not. Is a really good story. His dad's doing better, but he's not good with it either. And then the episode ends with him coming out to his classmates and then just being like, okay, cool, whatever. Glad you're happy. Which was a nice little turn.
Yeah. It will have an impact.
Of course.
Forward. There was, definitely a dad thing. You're going to see a very different thing with the dad moving forward. You see where the dad and the mum are just total opposites in terms of where they are in handling it. But yeah, my only issue, and it might just be, but Maya looks about 12, so it doesn't really kind of work as well with her going off to college. To me, she just looks so young compared to everybody else. So the whole thing of like college, it's the age-old thing, isn't it, of how that all works out and stuff. But yeah, I think it's more about like she's constant. She wants that reassurance, and she wants somebody to love her, and obviously she's hurt by Victor, and that's the whole kind of thing of going on. But again, just as this series goes on, I'm at that point actually where I'm just waiting for episode 5 so I can kind of get going again. So the thing is as well, this is where like Love Victor to me is one of those shows of this is a high school drama series, but it's a real high school drama series in the fact of it's a bit, I would say, like in that big shot zone, but obviously a little bit more edgy, but where you're dealing with problems that they actually have to deal with rather than the super fuzzy version of High School Musical where everything can be. I just really like. I think Love Victor is a much better high school drama series. It's a proper high school, and they're dealing with high school issues. The parents and their stuff are there, but it's based around the high school kids. And I just think, just as a whole, it's a really solid. And I really, like I said, this feels to me like a perfect like Disney Plus show of why they moved it to Hulu. I know why they did it.
Know why,
but they shouldn't have. And season 2 pushes the boundaries a little bit more of it. But yeah, it definitely feels to me like. If I wanted to watch one high school drama, I would pick that one. It's much more interesting as an adult to watch.
Yeah, out of all of the ones that we have on the Disney Plus lineup, I'm not going to include the other Hulu shows in that, just standard Disney Plus. If I was going to sit down and watch a high school series, I agree. This would be it. This would go over Big Shot, at least at this point, definitely over High School Musical. Mighty Ducks isn't really high school, but
it is, isn't it? Because they were at high school.
Yeah, they actually look like they're in high school as opposed to these guys who definitely look like 20-year-olds in high school.
Yes, yeah. Benji does look about like 29, so
they all they all have perfect complexions, which is not something I remember from high school at all.
I think our memories always state that we look like that, but it's like at the time everyone was just blotched.
No, my memories don't actually let me be that delusional, to be honest.
Yeah, it is that kind of thing. Greasy. Even like it's like, was it Felix? Yeah, you kind of look at it, you would be so like you say, you'd be so spotty. It's kind of it's definitely a highlight. I definitely think like that's one of the great Star originals each week dropping. So that one's definitely a highlight. So now let's move. Now I think that was all of them. We had The Gloaming. We had another episode of Gloaming, which here in the UK, again, spooky drama series. Me and my wife were enjoying that one. Another episode of Big Sky. That one's kind of leading into, I think next week is the finale, and this episode was really ended, and my wife telling us they're gonna have to do something with Ronald now. They're gonna have to do so. They can't keep letting him escape. So like those two shows are like my wife's shows now, where we watch them together. A little bit more gritty. We're really enjoying those shows. That's definitely kind of the evening shows for us, and that I'm really enjoying those two.
So I have not tried Big Sky at all. I'll probably get to it at some point. Maybe if is that one getting another season? I can't remember.
Yeah, that one's getting another season. Yeah.
So I'll probably go ahead and watch this season at some point before the second season comes out. The gloaming, however you pronounce it. The first episode, if you recall, didn't fully drag me in, but I think it got much better. We're on episode 3 now, right? It's got much better once it introduced the characters and kind of stopped toying with the are we going to be supernatural or not. It's like, come on, you listed the genre as supernatural. Stop playing with it, just go into it.
It was that kind of thing, like when the kind of the things were going bump in the night, I could see my wife was like, oh, now it's starting to get a bit more interesting, whereas I was there going the opposite. It's like, for me, I'm like, no, I actually don't. I would have just liked the police drama side of things.
Now I would definitely agree with that. I prefer quote unquote realistic police dramas. I'm not really a fan of supernatural kind of stuff, but if you're going to advertise as supernatural, then just please do it. Don't pretend that, oh no, we're going to ground it in reality. He's just got multiple no, come on, seriously.
So that one's definitely a good one. So moving on from there, let's talk about the big one that was the latest episode of Loki. So that one dropped on Wednesday. This one was all about Loki and Sylvie on a moon planet that's about to get blown up, and they're trying to get back. It's just them two. We learned a lot about it, and obviously there's a big reference as well to the fact of Loki being bi, which every in the comic books we've known for a while. And that was a big thing that really blew up across the internet. I'm kind of confirming that, which I think was good. And now, obviously, the whole question is like, who is Sylvie? Is she a Loki variant, or is she Enchantress? The fact that even Marvel.com even put up an article about who is the Enchantress, or who is Sylvie the Enchantress, was a little bit on the lines of, you are either trying to lead us well off the path, or this is the introduction of the Enchantress. They keep making the fact that she's not a Loki, but so what do you think on that one?
Well, I'm not going to say what my prediction on is she a Loki, is she not a Loki. We'll let that one unravel on its own. But this was a really fun episode. Again, not an incredible amount of action. There were action scenes, especially the ending.
Yeah,
the ending was a big action scene, and then there was the fight on the train. But the majority of the episode was these two just talking. Now, granted, they were traveling while it wasn't just sitting in two chairs staring at each other, kind of like last episode was with Owen Wilson. But it's amazing how good this series has been with how much just exposition is going on.
I love the fact that I can't sit there. I don't like being back. I'm like, because that's me. I hate sitting back going forward when I'm on a train. But it was so like weird of like him just kind of like, oh, I can't sit that way. And like little comments like you say, and like him kind of drinking and having a bit of fun. And really just showing that Loki side of like what we all love. This is the Loki we love, of him messing about and him being evil, but being mischievous, but still being likable. That likable rogue kind of thing of I think that's what Loki is. And also lots of little references of him being thrown around and acting like he is when he sits up, because there's loads of clips of him kind of reenact, of how it's exactly identical to how he is in the movies. But I love the colors. I mean, there's a lot of, especially the train was set up with the lighting so that it was very, like the colors, the pinks and the purples and the blues. That was all done on purpose, because the director Spacey said, that's what she did because she's bi and she wanted to set that up, and so that was the whole kind of thing with how they did that. So just taking that away, I thought it was quite an action-packed episode. I think obviously the big end, with them running, lots of explosions. You had fight scenes. I thought it was a much more. It just looked on such a different level. I mean, I don't know if they used the volume. It looked like they used the volume, but I don't think they did. I think they were on set. But it feels like Loki is in that next step up in terms of how it looks. It just looks like a movie.
Well, and it draws a lot of visual cues from the MCU, in particular, Infinity War and Endgame. Like a lot of the special effects, you can go, well, those meteors or moon chunks, whatever you want to call them, they look like they came out of the scene of Thanos throwing the moon, and uh, and scenes in Endgame towards the end of Endgame, where they have the giant fight and they're using the same special effects. So it just connects it all in really well. And that final scene, I mean, there's a lot of action in that final scene. And that's why I think, you draw a lot from that, and you don't realize that like 3/4 of the show is actually just talking. Because that scene does overwhelm the rest of the show with how cool it's put together. And they even disguised a lot of it to look like a single take. Now it's not, but it just flows together really well with a lot of kind of like the corridor scenes from Netflix shows. That was a signature of those series. Now this didn't take place in a corridor, but it had that same feel.
But I mean, again, just the discussion between the two of them getting to know each other, starting to not necessarily trust one another, but trying to, outdo one another and realizing they have to work together. They are connected. There is a connection there between them, and just I think that was the whole thing. And then just talking about, they're growing up, and again, I'm liking the fact that this is where that thing of they slow the pace down, because you wouldn't get that in the Loki movie. You wouldn't have got that same aspect. And I just a really good, solid episode. A little bit as well of the interesting thing with the variants, that all the people working for the TVA are variants, and they don't know they're variants. Again, where's all that going? But yeah, no, at some point we're expecting Mobius to turn up and save the two of them. I mean, that's where I'm kind of expecting the door to open just before they need to go, that kind of thing, or something along those lines. I mean, they're pretty much screwed at the minute. Otherwise,
yeah, it definitely ended on you guys are in trouble. You might as well just go to a bar and drink while the annihilation happens around you. Going back to the variance point, it will be interesting to see if that applies to Mobius, which it probably does. And if so, is he a variant of a character that we know?
But it might just be, he might. I don't necessarily think I don't know if they're a variant of other characters. I would just imagine he is just a human. No. Like it's the fact that he's got this thing about jet skis. Maybe he sells jet skis in real life. I don't know.
Maybe. I'm not saying like
the sofas.
Right. No, I'm not saying like the counter clerk is actually an alternate reality Tony Stark or something like that. But it would.
You went a bit quiet. You went a bit quiet there.
Sorry. It would be interesting if Mobius turned out to be a character that we already know. And if we go that route, would it also be a character who would have interacted with Loki at some point? Now, I'm totally speculating on that. But yeah, it would be fun if it turned out like if he was an alternate reality Thor or even a Loki himself. And that's not a prediction. I'm just throwing stuff out there.
Yes, for me, he probably just he's like a detective or somebody that works somewhere, and they're just a variance of people. But for me, I like the fact. Yeah. It's the kind of thing of like, where's this all going? I definitely just was like, great. I really enjoyed the episode, loved it. Can't wait for more. And yeah, it's just a really solid show. It just feels in a different level to WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, doesn't it?
It really does. And I think at least part of that too is what Tom Hiddleston is bringing to the table here. Now, the woman who's playing Sylvie, I don't know her name offhand, is doing a great job too. Obviously, Owen Wilson is doing great.
Yeah.
I know you've always liked him. I've hit and miss on his movies.
Yeah.
Like some movies I really like, and some movies I'm just like, can you please be quiet and go stand in the corner for a while? This is definitely one of the ones that I like him in. He's doing a great job with this. And for whatever reason, them all kind of congealing in this show is holding it above even WandaVision and Winter Soldier. And I would have said, it's because Tom Hiddleston is having so much fun, but I mean, Elizabeth Olsen was clearly having a great time in WandaVision, so it's not just that. There is something that is elevating it.
Yeah, and it's just a superior series right now. And this one's going to be a bar setter for sure. And it's a reason, it's the biggest Disney Plus show. It is the biggest Disney Plus show right now. And I think this one's going to be a hard one to beat for a while. But nevertheless, let us know what you think of Loki in the comments below. Get in touch with us as well. And as I said, go check us out over at what's on at disneyplus.com. You can join our Facebook group, become a Patreon and a YouTube channel member to help support our whole network of podcasts, YouTube, and a website. And on that note, guys, thank you very much. We shall see you guys soon. Later.